Tracking rain moving in tomorrow, our Weather Authority team is timing out the impact on your morning commute through the rest of the day. Then a squeegee kid convicted in a deadly altercation now seems to be making music in jail. Our team examines the lyrics that tell a deadly tale of violence and what his attorney is saying about this discovery. A suspect in the Morgan State shooting still at large. New today, we talk with the U.S. Marshals assisting with the search and question why he was on the street at all.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
New reporting tonight, 3 months after a 16-year-old squeegee kid was convicted in the death of a Baltimore driver. The teen is preparing for sentencing, and we are getting a new glimpse into the case because a video Fox 45 News has obtained seemingly coming from behind bars.
Does it concern you that some of the details from this case seem to have made its way into this song based on the lyrics?
Not at all. Not at all. Life imitates, art imitates life, chicken and egg, whatever.
Thank you for joining us at 4. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Maxine Stryker in for Kai. That song you're hearing first on Fox comes just as the teen is set to be sentenced this upcoming Monday on manslaughter charges. Fox
45's Mackenzie Frost has exclusive details. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary and Maxine, from her Facebook page, the mom of this teenager seemingly calling for people to like and subscribe her son's YouTube page. But it's the lyrics in one song that's raising questions and causing concern. Asia Gatson, the mom of the former squeegee kid convicted of voluntary manslaughter,
You may recall, according to Baltimore police, investigators say Williams and the 17-year-old opened fire on MSU's campus October 3rd, shooting 5 people, including 4 students. Now, the victims, investigators say, were not the believed intended targets. They also say that shooting stemmed from some sort of dispute. Well, now we're learning Williams was already under federal investigation for his alleged role in a drug trafficking operation in Washington, D.C. What does this say about the individual? He's already named in a federal drug trafficking investigation. And then as he's being investigated for that crime, he allegedly commits this crime.
It shows he has absolute complete disregard for public safety. And it is absolutely in the interest of public safety that we get him off the street.
Now, even more troubling, we've discovered, according to court records, investigators have tied Williams to a notorious street gang out of D.C. More on that, plus the latest on the search for Williams tonight on Maryland's Most Wanted. Back to you.
Alexa, thank you. Well, happening tonight, the Baltimore City Council will meet to take up redistricting plans. Right now, there are 2 competing proposals, one from the mayor, the other from City Council President Nick Mosby. The mayor wants Little Italy and Harbor East to move into a new district and split Bolton Hill. Residents have spoken out against that split, and Council President Mosby says his proposal puts the community first. The council has less than a month left to make the final decision, or else the plan from the mayor automatically goes into effect.
Well, our investigation into Baltimore's car theft crisis reveals a pile of dirt bikes and ATVs inside the city's impound lot. These images captured by our drone this week after Baltimore City declined our request to tour the city's impound lot. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live now with what we're learning. Amy?
Yeah, Maxine, these images of dirt bikes and ATVs really telling a story of their own. Take a look for yourself. This is new aerial video from the city's Pulaski impound lot. This week, our drone finding a pit of dirt bikes inside the city's main impound lot, piled on top of each other. The grass and trees growing among them, and it's a colorful reminder of a problem that has plagued Baltimore City's roads, intersections, and neighborhoods for years.
It'll be 50 at a time rolling through the block, jamming up intersections, and it appears as if these young folks don't care because they have no fear of being stopped or held accountable.
And Amy, just how many dirt bikes and ATVs are there at that city impound lot?
Maxine, that's one of the questions we asked, but our request today to Baltimore City's Department of Transportation with that question and others was never acknowledged today, but we have learned as of yesterday, Baltimore police said so far this year, 111 dirt bikes and ATVs have been seized by police. Reporting live in Baltimore, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
All right, Amy, thank you. Well, Fox 45 News has also been hearing about the ordeals of Marylanders whose vehicles have been stolen. The city tells Fox 45 News it takes a median of 14 days for owners to get stolen cars out of impound. But people that we've spoken with describe weeks of headaches, including a Baltimore County woman who says she resorted to paying her thieves 2 speeding tickets just to free her car from city impound.
To go online and pay it. $80. And now I have to jump through hoops to try to get them to give me my $80 back.
Well, if you have a stolen car story or know someone who's been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Just scan the QR code there on your screen, tell us what happened, or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com.
It's a story you saw first on Fox, how the state is defending itself after being cited in the Beltway crash that killed 6 construction workers this summer. Why some experts are calling the response unprofessional.
Plus, an ex-Trump attorney pleads guilty in Georgia's 2020 election probe. The punishment she'll now face.
How is the war between Israel and Hamas causing a global divide elsewhere as President Biden tries to help both Palestinians and Israelis at the same time? I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a closer look coming up.
And dry and mild for now, but rain moving in with the next weather maker potentially by tomorrow's commutes. I'm going to let you know when it's going to be wettest and how long it lasts into the weekend in my Weather Authority forecast.
We're back now with the Fox 45 Quad Box. Former President Donald Trump's attorney, Sidney Powell, pleads guilty in Georgia's 2020 election probe. She is the second of 18 people charged to reach a deal with prosecutors, along with an apology letter to election officials. Powell will serve 6 years of probation and pay $6,000.
An investigation underway at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina following the death of a Marine. Another Marine suspected to be involved in that death is now in custody.
Another American journalist has been detained in Russia. Alsu Kurmashiva, a dual Russian-American reporter, is charged with failure to register as a foreign agent. In March, Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershowitz was arrested on espionage charges.
The search for the next House Speaker continues at this hour. 6 weeks after lawmakers kicked Speaker Kevin McCarthy out, all eyes are now on Ohio Representative Jim Jordan. After 2 rounds of voting, he's failed to gather enough support, and some lawmakers want to expand the powers of the temporary Speaker, Patrick McHenry of North Carolina.
President Biden back home tonight after traveling to the Middle East.
This evening, the president will deliver a primetime address from the Oval Office. He is expected to press Congress for additional aid for the war efforts in both Israel and Ukraine. And you can watch the address right here tonight at 8 on Fox 45 or on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Here's the latest on the war now in its 13th day. Nearly 5,000 people have been killed in both Israel and Gaza, with thousands more injured. Humanitarian aid will now be allowed to enter Gaza, where nearly 1 million people have been displaced. Right now, the U.S. is warning American citizens in Lebanon to leave as tensions continue to rise on its border with Israel.
Tonight, Hamas is claiming an Israeli airstrike in the northern part of Gaza has killed the head of its security forces. As the war continues, protests are erupting around our nation. And right now, there's also outrage after 500 people were killed inside a Gaza hospital on Tuesday.
A shell struck the hospital. We don't know what it was, but we saw its devastating impact, with children being torn to pieces.
Well, Palestinian officials are blaming Israel, while Israeli officials and U.S. intelligence say Palestinian Islamic Jihad is behind that attack. And there is new reporting tonight that some of the weapons used by Hamas against Israel were made in North Korea.
This as some see Arab nations lining up against the United States.
Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman has more on the growing global fallout from the war.
Images interpreted through different eyes. Some see President Biden with Israel's prime minister as allied solidarity. Others see it as taking a side, further escalating tensions. With the battles still waging on, President Biden backed Israel in his trip to the Middle East, but also promised help for citizens in Gaza, digging out, burying the dead, and now desperate for fuel, food, and medicine.
I was very blunt about the need to support getting humanitarian aid to Gaza. Get it to Gaza and do it quickly.
We have 31 Americans killed. We don't know how many Americans are hostages. And we got a president that wants to give money to Gazans? Give me a break.
And questioning assurances it will get into the right hands.
It cannot be misappropriated. It cannot be taken by Hamas fighters for their own purposes. And so we're going to be watching that very closely. It has to get to Palestinian civilians.
That despite Arab leaders snubbing Biden, canceling meetings with him while overseas. Meanwhile, American military hardware and vehicles delivered Thursday to Israelis, just as Hamas weaponry is now the source of controversy too. The Associated Press reports Hamas fighters likely used North Korean weapons during the initial assault, possibly provided from Iran.
Many, like this Soviet-built 50 caliber machine gun.
CNN assessing that firearms also appear to be altered Russian and Chinese weapons left behind on battlefields in decades past. All of these moves, including American involvement in the war in Ukraine, perhaps only exacerbating the divide and the more figurative battle lines drawn between the U.S. and longtime foes like Russia and North Korea. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Well, we continue to hear from Americans with family in the path of the conflict. They include a Seattle woman in Gaza who lives near the site of the deadly hospital explosion.
There were periods of time early in the week, which were, I think, the most frightening, where she was absent from communication.
We'll have the full story for you in 30 minutes.
Fox 45 News is preparing you ahead of our next weather maker. You're looking at live pictures around the region. Plenty of sunshine today.
That's right. We're tracking a system bringing rain to our region tomorrow. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers here with more. Let's just pause for a moment and just say how spectacular today was.
Beautiful.
Did you get outside a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
Maxie,
nice.
I just walked to my car and I just kind of want to
take a deep breath.
I know, right?
It's beautiful. 70s, about 72 this afternoon, but unfortunately, yeah, this time of year can't last too long, and we've got our next weather maker on deck from Detroit back to Lexington, as well as Chicago, Indianapolis, rain, even some thunderstorms, and then there's kind of a part two, if you will, a little coastal system trying to get going south of Virginia Beach. Both of these going to gang up and give us at least a risk of some rain coming up for tomorrow, especially late in the day tomorrow night, and then it looks like maybe even a leftover shower on Saturday, as again, it's kind of part one, part two. Putting a little squeeze play on us as we head towards the beginning of the weekend. Behind all of it, it will be cooler. Temperatures probably going to have a hard time getting out of the low to mid 60s pretty much Sunday and beyond, maybe even Saturday as well. Next weather maker, there it is. Here are the parts. Again, you see that system coming in from the inland areas in the Midwest with the showers approaching for the day on Friday. There could be a few showers, but especially later in the day and Friday night. And then it gives rise to this coastal system, which is going to steal a lot of the moisture. So we won't see the heaviest of the rain nor the biggest of the wind with this one. But even during the day on Saturday, you see there's some light activity that could kind of mess up your first half of the weekend, or at least make it a little bit moist. I don't think it's going to be a rain out at this point, but again, not the prettiest day. 71, mostly cloudy skies. You take a beautiful look in Towson. This is the north side of the Beltway. Traffic moving by a little bit slowly. Winds out of the south at 13. That's a mild direction for us. That's what's pumped those temperatures up ahead of the system. Humidity at 44%, dew points in the 40s. So it is dry, and it is pretty warm. It's at 71. We'll take that here in Baltimore now. 72 at Westminster as well as at Frederick, near 70 along the eastern shore. These temperatures running about 5 to even up to 10 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago. Now, west of Columbus, those blues, that's where in the temperature deficit, and that will get here again probably by the weekend. Now, in the tropics, there's Tropical Storm Tammy. This looks like it's going to move potentially as almost a Category 1 or a Category 1 hurricane across the Antilles and then eventually turning its way out into the open Atlantic. So it won't mean any problems for the mainland U.S. Now, out here in Maryland, it looks like some extra clouds going to be rolling our way, especially as we head into Friday. Even tonight, it's more clouds than stars, I think. There's some rain east and again, some showers out to the west as we head through the day on Friday. And then Friday evening, that's when some of that rain moves overhead. I think our best chance, at least a steady, light, maybe moderate rain comes Friday night. Probably plans in the evening could get wet all the way through the wee hours of Saturday. That then moves east, and it looks like it's a breezy and somewhat cooler day on Saturday. There could be about a 20-30% chance of a spot shower there. Highs at 67. Sunshine back for the Ravens game on Sunday. A windy day with a high 64, and it looks like it stays at or below average at least through next Monday and Tuesday before a little bit of a warm up into the middle of next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Make sure you keep the Fox 45 weather app close to you tomorrow. You can use our powerful Doppler radar to track storms right down to your street. It's free for your smartphones. Just search WBFF in your app store.
$500,000 has not been reimbursed. Can you explain why?
45 News questions Mayor Scott on how taxpayer dollars are spent. This after a school resource officer was charged with overtime fraud. Project Baltimore pushing for accountability and transparency. Coppin State unveils a brand new home for its business school. How the university says it will transform the education it provides. But first, should schools require lessons in financial literacy before high school graduation? A look at the growing push and the reason why. Coppin State University is ushering its business school into the future. Fox 45 News was in West Baltimore earlier today as the university officially opened its new College of Business building. The building will house several departments with new classrooms and labs. It had a price tag of nearly $46 million, and the university says this new facility will help them better prepare their business students for the future.
We're excited about this building, not just because it's a beautiful building, but it's highly functional. It supports our programs.
What we are doing at Coppin is we are empowering our scholars and we are strengthening our brand. A brand that is connecting with students all around the world. Thus, this is why students come from 35 different states, including the District of Columbia, and 30 countries to study in West Baltimore.
Well, the university named parts of the new building after Dr. Sadie Gregory. We just saw her, a longtime employee and the current dean of the College of Business. Right now, Coppin State is seeing a rise in enrollment among freshman, transfer, and graduate students. Looks beautiful. Well, a new trend is catching on in American classrooms that could save students plenty later in life. The National Desk's Angela Brown explains.
At least 30 states teach students how to manage their money because not being financially literate can cost you thousands of dollars. Our team dropped by an economics class at Mount Hebron High School outside of D.C. These students, already young masters of personal finance.
They need to understand economic and economic reasoning for their future.
The Council for Economic Education found only 24% of millennials demonstrate basic financial literacy. Jade Warshaw from Ramsey Solutions.
We are seeing studies that say that 88% of adults don't feel like they were prepared to handle their money in the real world.
Since 2020, 9 states have enacted statewide policies that require students to pass personal finance classes before they can graduate high school, bringing the total to 30 states, according to this August 2023 report from the Council of Economic Education. Nan Morrison, president, CEE.
We start teaching basic concepts to little kids. We teach them the definitions. They learn about money. They learn about trading things. It's a big economic concept.
Many parents say these courses are long overdue. Nearly 90% of parents, according to one survey, said that states should require financial education classes. Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Well, another vacant property leading to problems in a Baltimore neighborhood. Next, hear from the owners who say the city has ignored their calls to cut down a tree growing out of control on a vacant lot near them. 6 construction workers killed in March while on the job. Next, the violations the federal government is alleging against the state highway authority. Plus, the ordeals of Americans stuck in the Middle East, how families are anxiously staying connected in this time of war. A massive tree growing through a vacant property in North Baltimore is becoming more than just an eyesore.
The residents living next door say its invading roots and branches are starting to cause serious damage to their home, and calls for help from the city are falling on deaf ears.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us live as we demand answers tonight. Rebecca?
Well, Mary and Maxine, the sheer size of this tree shows you that it obviously didn't form overnight. Take a look. It has completely taken over this vacant, and the branches are approaching the home next door, the owners of which say they fear the tree could fall or cause a fire in a rainstorm. The limbs are tangled in their power lines and have started growing over top of their property. Meanwhile, the roots are causing their concrete to buckle, and they have concerns over what that means for the piping below. Hoping to get it removed, they say they've placed countless 311 calls and even messaged the mayor directly, but time and time again they claim the city has ignored their cries for help.
I would expect for them to say we're sorry for, the damage that this has caused, and we'll jump right on it. At least stay in communication with us, sending correspondence back and forth, but we haven't gotten any of that.
Now, the homeowners say a private contractor estimated it would cost about $6,000 for them to remove the tree themselves. So today I reached out to the Department of Housing to learn why the city isn't taking action here. Hear their full response coming up in our story at 5:30. But for now, reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. First on Fox, Maryland's Highway Authority is defending itself after a report into a deadly crash earlier this year. 6 construction workers were killed on the Beltway after 2 cars crashed into them. Federal investigators are pointing their fingers at the state, but as Jeff Abel reports, the state is pushing back.
On the Baltimore Beltway, where 6 construction workers lost their lives in March, the work zone was quiet today, but questions about the cause of that deadly crash are growing louder.
There are people who weren't doing their jobs.
The construction team was working inside a median work zone when police say a speeding vehicle plowed through an opening in the work zone, striking and killing all 6 workers. While police blame speed for the crash, an occupational safety and health investigation has slapped the State Highway Administration with what it calls a serious violation. Investigators say traffic control signs were not posted to warn road users that construction vehicles may be transitioning into or out of the work zone, exposing contractors' employees to struck-by hazards.
The whole idea of safety is to warn people, is to give people advance notice of a possible problem ahead.
On Monday, SHA told Fox 45 that the sign was not required and was unrelated to the crash. Today, however, SHA delivered a broader explanation, writing in a statement that the citation issued was related to optional signs alerting drivers to potential construction vehicles entering the roadway. The crash did not involve a construction vehicle, therefore the signs would not have prevented the crash from occurring.
They're saying basically these 6 people would have died regardless. To say that it wouldn't have prevented it is one of the most irresponsible, unprofessional things I've ever heard in response to a multi-fatality on a highway.
Gene Simmers is a retired state highway engineer who questions why it took a state violation before drivers could be warned about the work zone ahead.
You can say your safety is at the top of your list, but if you have a situation like this, obviously it's not being adhered to.
That was Jeff Abel reporting. The state's Highway Administration has indicated it will not contest or appeal the violation. Fox 45 News on the scene of live breaking news. This is in Northwest Baltimore, where a fire is burning a number of row homes. We're awaiting official word from the fire department, but this is happening not far from the Central Park Heights neighborhood. You can see smoke billowing from the homes there. We'll let you know as soon as we get more information.
A Baltimore City school police officer facing federal charges accused of collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in fraudulent overtime. Well, now Project Baltimore's Chris Papps is asking who signed off on all those hours, and is the FBI investigation into that officer part of a bigger problem?
Mayor, can we just get a second with you? Project Baltimore has been trying to get answers about how the city spent your tax dollars during the pandemic.
What's your question there?
We know Baltimore City Schools is currently out nearly $500,000. Money that was paid to school police working overtime at COVID testing sites from July 2020 to July 2021. The school system asked to be reimbursed by the city, but more than 3 years later, that money hasn't been paid back. North Avenue will not tell us why. So we went straight to the mayor.
The $500,000 has not been reimbursed. Can you explain why?
So we'll follow up with you, Chris, on that. We know we work with our school system to make sure that everything happens above reproach and that we're making sure that our money is spent the right way. We'll make sure you get to that information so you get to the truth and you don't have to guess.
The truth could be in documents we requested from city schools, but the district will not release them, citing the ongoing investigation into Lawrence Smith, a longtime city schools police officer and Dunbar head football coach.
You want to say something to your players, coach?
Lawrence Smith last month was arrested by the FBI, charged with 15 felony counts related to alleged tax evasion and fraudulently obtaining more than $215,000 in overtime from 2019 to 2022. Project Baltimore has obtained 857 of Smith's overtime forms, most of them from the same time period. And what we found raises serious questions about how Smith's overtime was approved. When an officer submits overtime hours, they fill out a form like this, which is signed by the supervisor on duty when the work is completed. The form is then approved by a commanding officer. In some cases, that's the same person who signs off twice. Of the 857 overtime forms we have for Smith, most are signed by multiple supervisors. And the supervisor who signed the most, Lieutenant Danina White.
What I love about my job, I've been with the Board of Education for more than 23 years.
This is White from a 2022 video posted by City Schools when she was promoted to lieutenant.
My vision is one with the 21st century model of cultural transparency and accountability to restore and rebuild the highest levels of public trust.
White signed off on 659 of Smith's 857 overtime forms. Lieutenant Alfonso Small signed off on 462. Lieutenant Thomas Shook approved 162. And Sergeant Tracy Johnson signed 110. In analyzing Smith's overtime forms, we found between August and September of 2020, Smith recorded 300 hours of overtime over 6 weeks. If you add that to his normal work week, Smith says he was at work an average of nearly 13 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 42 straight days. A feat he nearly repeated the following year in 2021, when he logged 297 hours of overtime over a 6-week period between June and July. 13 hours of work every day for 42 straight days. That seems like it should raise some red flags. But Smith's overtime forms were approved by his supervisors. Had City Schools just gone to his Facebook page like we did, they would have seen multiple examples where Smith claimed to be working when it appears he was doing something else, like on vacation in Michigan or watching a soccer practice on an athletic field.
Who do you want to talk to?
Anyone who would talk to me.
How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
Not right
now. Not right now.
This could all be avoided if Dr. Santalisas would just give us 3 minutes. 3 minutes is all I need.
Go to the statement we gave you, because that's why we answered those questions in the statement.
But you don't answer the question.
For more than a year, Project Baltimore has tried to speak with City Schools leadership about the investigation into Smith and the approval process for school police overtime. Should the supervisors who approved the allegedly fraudulent overtime also be held accountable? And is all of this related to nearly $500,000 in school police overtime that Baltimore City has yet to pay back? The school district won't tell us, but the mayor said he'll get us an answer.
We'll contact you, don't worry.
You'll contact us?
Yes, sir, we'll contact you direct.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Well, Clyde Boatwright is the president of the Maryland State Fraternal Order of Police and a sergeant in the Baltimore City School Police. Following this report, he responded in a statement saying, in part, Detective Lawrence Smith maintains his innocence and will eventually have his day in court. He goes on to say that Lieutenants Alfonso Small, Thomas Shue, retired, and Danino White and Sergeant Tracy Moore do not deserve to be publicly shamed by Fox 45's reporting, which implies that there is widespread intentional mismanagement of taxpayer dollars and couldn't be further from the truth. Boatwright has declined an interview. Baltimore County has begun work on a skate park where it's being built and the need it will fill.
And if you're taking a run or a jog this afternoon, it's a time to do it with partly to mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures around 70, falling into the 60s, but we are tracking the next weather maker with a risk of rain as we head into your weekend plans, perhaps. I'm going to let you know when it's going to be rainiest in my Weather Authority forecast.
The text message summary from last night was that we received last night was very concerning.
Americans stuck in the Middle East next hear from the family of a woman who is in Gaza as the war rages on.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Fox 45 News is on the scene of live breaking news. This is in Northwest Baltimore where a fire is burning. We're getting reports of multiple row homes on fire, but our newsroom is working to confirm those details. This is happening not far from the Central Park Heights neighborhood. The fire department has been on the scene now for about an hour, so we're awaiting official word from them. We'll let you know as soon as we get more information. Well, Natalie Holloway's mom says her nightmare is over after the longtime suspect in her daughter's death admits his role. The Alabama teen disappeared during a trip to Aruba in 2005 as part of a plea deal. Vandersloot admitted to killing Holloway. Natalie's mom is speaking out.
But Aruba did nothing besides be complicit with him and let him go. So, you know, that's why I feel like I can live with my decision that I got the answers that I wanted, even though, yes, it came with a plea agreement.
Well, Vandersloot is currently serving a 28-year sentence in prison in Peru for killing another woman in 2010. After witnessing events unfolding right now in the Middle East, President Biden will address the nation this evening. Right now, thousands have been killed in both Israel and Gaza as that fighting continues. And for those with family in the area, it's hard to imagine what they're going through. Denise Whitaker with our Sinclair sister station in Washington shares one family's story.
There were periods of time early in the week, which were, I think, the most frightening, where she was absent from communication.
Ramona Okamara was near the hospital in Gaza where an attack killed about 500 people. But overnight, she was able to get text messages out to her brother.
The text message summary from last night was that we received last night was very concerning.
Miles Okamura tells me his sister could hear explosions and even felt the building shake.
And it's getting tense as time goes on and the violence increases.
Ramona, an expert in prosthetics, started volunteering in Gaza after she retired from the University of Washington. Her brother and niece tell me she really has a passion for helping the people of Gaza.
She has spoken about, getting assistance from local drivers to move around, sleeping in cars.
She gave all of her clothes to the driver and his family because they lost everything. Their house was flattened in the bombardment of Gaza.
Ramona's family tells me she's now hunkered down in the southern part of Gaza with about 45 other humanitarian aid workers, all sharing resources, waiting for the border to open so they can all make their way back home. In Seattle, Denise Whitaker, KOMO News.
Denise Whitaker reporting there. You can watch the president's address live right here tonight at 8 o'clock. We'll also have it for you on the WBFF mobile app or online at foxbaltimore.com. Take a look at this now. An innovative achievement for residents in Baltimore County. Officials breaking ground on a new skate park in the Overly Fullerton community today. County Executive Johnny Olszewski, along with other county leaders, gathered to announce the project and all it will have to offer to skating enthusiasts.
I hope with this asset and amenity that the Hazelwood Skateboard Park will be among the brightest gems in the country in terms of an asset and an amenity. This skateboard park will represent a $4.3 million best-in-class investment here in Baltimore County.
This will be the county's second public skate park in nearly 50 years.
Tracking the next weather maker as it moves in. Notice the rain that's out in the Ohio Valley, even some thunderstorms into Lafayette, Louisiana, out east to Chicago. Then there's a batch of rain that's south off the Outer Banks, and in between is where we are with the nice weather, warm weather. Temperatures in the 70s this afternoon. Thus far, last check, we made it up to 72. But the squeeze play continues, and eventually we will get some rain around here. Probably takes until maybe later tonight, a stray shower, and maybe tomorrow a stray shower, but especially tomorrow night, I think. And then much cooler weather rolls in beyond that for the weekend and into early next week. Our next weather maker, we're tracking it here. You see it's kind of in two pieces, kind of a complex situation as one piece of inland energy, if you will, begins to move in. And Friday, we're kind of wedged between that inland spot and then this forming off the coast. It comes together and then quickly moves east into Saturday. So I think our best risk as it kind of comes together would be Friday night at getting some more widespread, at least showers. And then as this thing moves east and drags in some cool air and blustery winds, going to be a chillier day for Saturday, but only maybe a stray risk of a shower. So the weekend forecast overall is shaping up a little bit better, at least during the waking hours, if you will. 71 now, mostly cloudy skies on the Mile 1 Cam winds out of the south at about 13, humidities at 44% with dew points in the 40s. So it's a still dry but warm feeling day with a 71 Baltimore, 70 degrees at Westminster, 70 at Frederick, temperatures in the mid to upper 60s from Annapolis all the way up the eastern shore. Actually, temperatures around 70 portions of the eastern shore as well. Temperatures are running about 4 to 9 degrees warmer than just 24 hours ago across most of the East Coast, including us here in Maryland. But then the drop off west of Columbus and Cleveland, those blues that you see, that moving east, that comes in behind this system as we head into the early weekend. Now out in the tropics, Tammy, that's a tropical storm, could become a hurricane as it makes the push towards the Antilles over the next several days, and that could impact the Antilles over the weekend, and then eventually heading off into the open Atlantic and away from land. So it won't have any impacts here in the continental United States. So some good news there. Now, the future scan overnight tonight into early tomorrow, you'll see the clouds increasing. Temperatures not as cool as the 40s we had this morning, probably in the 50s by early tomorrow. Chance of a stray shower here or there, partly to mostly cloudy skies for tomorrow. Another fairly mild day, probably upper 60s. And there could be a stray shower almost at any time. You see that squeeze play between our systems. And again, it finally begins coming together a little bit more by tomorrow around sunset or shortly thereafter. So Friday evening plans could be a little bit wet and into the overnight hours Friday into Saturday. But by 6 a.m. Saturday, look, most of that stuff's moving east. And I think we'll see just a risk of a stray shower on Saturday and then blustery and cool for the Ravens game on Sunday. So for tonight, 55 degrees. Again, a stray shower, mostly cloudy skies. That would be after midnight. For tomorrow, 68, mostly cloudy. Some showers mainly late. And blustery with a chance of a shower left over on Saturday after more widespread, at least light rain, maybe moderate rain Friday night into early Saturday, mainly while you're sleeping. And then we're at 61, blustery, cool for the Ravens game on Sunday. Temperatures low to mid 60s early next week before it turns a lot milder, before maybe another cool down by next weekend by Wednesday and Thursday.
Coming up at 5 o'clock, hundreds of illegal dirt bikes in a Baltimore impound lot. What one community leader says the city needs to do to stop more people from bringing them back onto the streets. 4 teams remain in MLB postseason play. One team looks to knot their series at 2, while another eyes a 3-0 series lead. All of that and more coming up next.
The road to postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
Four teams remain in MLB postseason play, and each day we get closer to crowning a World Series champion. The Phillies, Diamondbacks, Astros, and Rangers, they're all still alive with each team chasing that coveted Commissioner's Trophy. Houston is looking to become the first team since 2000 to go back-to-back. But last night they found themselves in an 0-2 hole. One They're trying to dig themselves out of top 7. Yordan Alvarez drives in 2 with an RBI single. Jeremy Pena, he would add another in the 8th as the Astros take game 3, 8-5, the final score.
We were close to winning the first 2 games. You know, we were 1 hit away. You know, it might not have won, but we were 1 hit away from at least tying it up or going ahead. And, you know, I mean, this team doesn't quit. We know that the Rangers don't quit either. And, you know, it makes for a good series.
Well, it's almost game time in the desert between the Phillies and Diamondbacks. The Phils took the first 2 at Citizens Bank Park with one of the best home field advantages in all of baseball. Now they hit the road for game 3. Ranger Suarez getting the ball against Brandon Pfaadt. Should be a good one. 2 great matchups on tap. First, Philly looks to take a 3-0 series lead over the D-backs. Then tonight at 8, it's the Rangers and Astros going head-to-head for game 4. Maxine.
And we are your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. The Fall Classic begins Friday, October 27th. You can catch all the action right here on Fox 45.
All right, we are tracking the next weather maker, and you see it here on the Future Scan as we head through our Friday. Risks of showers increase, especially late day and Friday night. Then most of the energy, I think, moves off the coast and up toward New England, although there still will be clouds. It will be blustery, and there could be a stray shower on Saturday. And then Sunday, sunshine returns for the Ravens game. But, boy, looks like we got a bit of a cool day that's going to be on the way, and that's going to bleed into early next week as well. So Friday, showers mainly late in the day, 64, or rather 68. We cool down to 64. It's going to feel a lot cooler on Saturday. I can tell you that. Stray shower. And then Sunday for the Ravens game, blustery cool. High temperatures right near 60. I think the wind is going to be a big factor here as we head into Sunday football. 1 p.m. we've got our kickoff at 59, 60. Some of those winds gusting up to 35 miles an hour all the way through much of the game. 59. You're going to have to bundle up if you're headed out to the bank here by the final. Sunshine and winds gusting up to 30 miles an hour.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5, a Montgomery County police officer fighting for his life as the man accused of running him down appears in court. The latest on the accused drunk driving incident. And days before his sentencing, a teen convicted of murder appears to release a song from prison about the shooting. The new developments in the Tim Reynolds case tonight. A Fox 45 News exclusive. The teen found guilty of killing a Baltimore driver, apparently rapping about committing the crime. New developments in the Tim Reynolds case that you'll only see here.
Hundreds of illegal dirt bikes and ATVs piled up in a Baltimore impound lot, what some say the city needs to do to keep more from appearing on city streets.
Violence in Israel continues from Gaza to the West Bank. The latest on the conflict as President Biden is set to speak about the war tonight.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Fox 45 News is on the scene of live breaking news. This is in Northwest Baltimore, where a fire is burning a number of row homes. This is happening not far from the Central Park Heights neighborhood. We are awaiting official word from the fire department, and we'll let you know as we get more details. But you can see many firefighters on the scene there, flames still shooting out of one of the homes as they continue to fight that fire.
Well, first on Fox, 3 months after a squeegee kid is convicted in the death of a Baltimore driver, Fox 45 News is getting a new perspective on the shooting.
As the 16-year-old prepares for sentencing, he seemingly released a song about the incident from behind bars. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maxine Stryker in for Kai tonight.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Well, let's go straight to Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost, who joins us live now with the song and what it means for the upcoming sentencing. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary and Maxine, there are a lot of questions about this, and from her Facebook page, this teen's mother seemingly calling for support, telling people to like and subscribe her son's page. But it's the lyrics of one song that seem to detail some important information about Tim Reynolds' death that's really raising questions and causing some concern. Asia Gatson, the mom of the former squeegee kid convicted of voluntary manslaughter, taking to Facebook seeking support. In August, writing, "Check my son on YouTube and like and subscribe." The link? This song. Difficult to understand at first, but some of the lyrics seemingly talk about details of Timothy Reynolds' death. In July 2022, Reynolds crossing several lanes of traffic, confronting a group of squeegee kids at the Inner Harbor with a baseball bat. The squeegee kid seen on surveillance video running to a backpack, grabbing a gun, again appearing to be discussed in this song. During the trial, jurors agreed the kid in question acted with some level of self-defense, convicting the teen of voluntary manslaughter. Reynolds seen walking back to his car when he was shot multiple times. Gatson posting a link to another song, writing, "This son of mine."
If this is in fact attributable to him, I mean, he's a product of his environment.
Warren Brown, one of the squeegee kid's defense attorneys, says it isn't clear if the people on the track are in fact his client, but says he's not surprised with the content.
It's on par with most of the rap music these days. It talks about violence, talks about guns, glorifies violence that plagues our cities, demeans women. And so nothing surprising in any of that.
Brown questioning when the song was recorded, noting the apparent quality of the audio, especially since his client has been in custody for nearly a year.
It definitely does not sound like something that was done via a telephone.
But the dates the teen's mom posted the links coming after her son's conviction. We went to a known address for the teen's mom, but no one answered the door.
It's incredibly troubling and has left the family sick to their stomach.
Through Vignaraja, the attorney for the Reynolds family, argues the song, paired with the mom's public support, shows someone who is not remorseful.
You don't have to take the rap lyrics word for it. It's his mom that's saying and celebrating what her son is rapping about. This is not a person who's learned any lessons, who feels any remorse, who appreciates the pain that he's caused. It's really disturbing.
The case igniting the city's conversation again about squeegee kids. Mayor Brandon Scott launching the Squeegee Collaborative, later rolling out enforcement zones, stopping squeegeeing from certain city intersections, including the one where Reynolds was killed.
I don't understand how my son is in this situation.
Gatson's previous interviews indicate her son was squeegeeing to raise money for his 15th birthday party. Now, questions remain about what length of sentence this teen will face. Now, again, that this teen will be back in court on Monday for sentencing, and Brown tells me that the defense will again try and get the sentencing placed in the juvenile justice system, noting that had his client originally been charged with manslaughter, the case would have been in the juvenile system to begin with. And I reached out to the state's attorney's office to try and get some comment about this new reporting, but I'm told because this is still a pending legal matter, they have no comment. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, it is not the first time we've seen a concerning piece of video from the Department of Juvenile Services. Back in September, DJS launched an investigation into this clip showing a video call with somebody who appears to be a juvenile in custody. In the video, the teen details how people are scared to apologize to him for talking to police. The comments reinforcing the stop snitching culture in Baltimore that law enforcement officials say has made investigations much more difficult.
Next month, lawmakers will bring state agencies together to address crime involving Maryland youth. In the hot seat will be Vincent Schiraldi, the Secretary of Juvenile Services. He is facing increasing questions about the state of the department and how successful its efforts are in rehabilitating young offenders. Lawmakers will also talk about two recent laws on how young people are held accountable within the criminal justice system. Critics have blamed those changes for the recent rise in youth crime. Later this hour, we continue our coverage in Baltimore's juvenile crime crisis. A father telling Fox 45 News his child is out of control and the city must hold youth offenders accountable.
I will call for a day of accountability. I'd bring those bikes together, bring a bulldozer, I will crush every one of them.
Our investigation into Baltimore's car theft crisis reveals a pile of dirt bikes and ATVs inside the city's impound lot. These images captured by our drone this week after Baltimore City declined our request to tour the city's impound lot. Fox 45's Amy Simpson live with what we're learning tonight. Amy?
Mary, we weren't allowed inside of the impound lot, so we sent our drone above it. And the images of these dirt bikes now really telling a story of their own. Baltimore knows the sight and the sounds when dirt bikes and ATVs overwhelm city streets, intersections, and even neighborhoods. Now, this new aerial view of the city's main impound lot, which sits off of Pulaski Highway in East Baltimore, reveals a pit of dirt bikes piled on top of each other, the grass and trees growing among them.
It looked like there were about 200 dirt bikes.
A colorful reminder of a problem that's plagued the city for years.
When they come into the neighborhood, number one, the dirt bikes are loud. Number two, they play music that's loud.
This lifelong Baltimorean, Huber Memorial Church Reverend P.M. Smith, speaking to what he's witnessed.
It'll be 50 at a time rolling through the block, jamming up intersections, and it appears as if these young folks don't care because they have no fear of being stopped or held accountable.
As of yesterday, Baltimore police said 111 dirt bikes and ATVs have been seized so far this year. A BPD spokesperson saying if a dirt bike is stolen, it's returned to its owner. But if the bike or ATV was used on the streets illegally, it's up to the city solicitor to decide if it's returned to its owner. But illegal dirt bikes on city streets are not unique to Baltimore.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Last year, New York City Mayor Eric Adams sending a clear message.
I'm not going to give up on my promise and commitment to rid our streets of these bikes.
In front of the cameras, hundreds of New York City's illegal dirt bikes and ATVs flattened and flattened again, rendered useless.
I would follow the example of the mayor of New York, Mr. Eric Adams.
Now this outspoken community leader says Baltimore City should follow suit.
I will call for a day of accountability. I'd bring those bikes together, bring a bulldozer, I will crush every one of them, and then pile all the confiscated guns and crush them as well. A day of accountability for those dirt bikes and for guns before the eye of the public.
Saying city leadership has the opportunity to send a message of its own.
I think that's the adult move. That's the sensible move. That's the move that will win the confidence of our people back.
So just how many dirt bikes and ATVs are inside of the city's impound lot right now? Today, our questions to the city's Department of Transportation, which runs the Pulaski impound lot, those questions were never even acknowledged. We're live in Baltimore. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Well, new information tonight on the criminal past of the 18-year-old who is wanted for the Morgan State mass shooting. Last week, a 17-year-old was arrested and charged, but right now police are still looking for Juvenile Williams. Tonight, we're learning Williams was already facing charges before the shooting and has ties to gangs in the region. Well, Williams has been at large for more than 2 weeks now. Here's Alexa Ashwell.
Maxine, the search is intensifying for 18-year-old Juvenile Williams. You may recall last week police announcing the arrest of a 17-year-old, but Williams here still remains on the run. The U.S. Marshals Service now joining in on that search. Now, according to Baltimore police, it was Williams and the 17-year-old suspect who opened fire on MSU's campus back on October 3rd, shooting 5 people, 4 of those victims students. The victims, investigators say, were not the believed intended targets, and that this shooting stemmed from some sort of dispute. Well, now we're learning Williams was already under federal investigation, named in a federal indictment for his alleged role in a drug trafficking operation in Northwest D.C. What does this say about the individual? He's already named in a federal drug trafficking investigation, and then as he's being investigated for that crime, he allegedly commits this crime.
It shows he has absolute complete disregard for public safety, and it is absolutely in the interest of public safety that we get him off the street.
And Maxine, as you mentioned, even more troubling, investigators say, according to court records, that Williams is connected to a notorious street gang in D.C. More on that, plus the latest on the search for this teen. That's tonight on Maryland's Most Wanted. Back to you.
Alexa, thank you. Well, this week, the Morgan State University Police Union sent a letter to the MSU Police Chief Lance Hatcher demanding change following that mass shooting. In the 12-page letter, the union says Chief Hatcher misrepresented the police staffing shortage. Hatcher claims the department has 60 sworn officers. The union says that number's only 34. The union also says patrol officers don't have access to radios to communicate with BPD, which hurts coordination efforts, especially in emergency situations on campus. Well, a day later, Morgan State University released a statement regarding the concerns from the union, saying in part, quote, as a result of these concerns, which have only just been brought to the attention of university leadership, the university is committed to conducting a full investigation of all allegations pertaining to the MSUPD and its operations. You can find the university's full statement along with all of our reporting surrounding the Morgan State mass shooting on our website, foxbaltimore.com. A tree growing out of control and threatening a Baltimore homeowner's property. We hear from a resident who says the city is ignoring her calls for help.
Turmoil on Capitol Hill as GOP representatives are still butting heads on how to move forward in naming a new speaker. The latest on the battle in the House tonight.
And for the commute home, I think things are going to be dry and comfortable. Open up the windows, enjoy, but you know what? Comes at the expense of some rain by tomorrow into the weekend. I'm going to let you know when it gets here. We're timing it out on the Future Scan latest computer models. A Weather Authority forecast hour by hour in a couple of minutes.
FOX45 News still on the scene of live breaking news in northwest Baltimore, where a fire is burning a number of row homes happening not far from Central Park Heights. Let's listen into the update.
Led to those injuries? Like, were they like, you know, was there like any kind of like floor collapse or anything? Do we know exactly what led to those injuries?
Those details are still developing right now. This is a very, very active fire scene. And once the fire is under control, as part of the investigation, we'll be able to assess exactly, how this fire developed, what the actions of all members here on the fire ground were, and ultimately determine what caused the fire.
And do we know the conditions and extent of the injuries as well?
I don't at this moment. I'm still gathering those details.
And do we know like what hospital they were taken to?
Right now, I'm not at liberty to release those details.
Gotcha. Now, all four structures, were they occupied or were some vacant?
Sure, that'll be a part of the investigation. I don't know right now. As you can see behind me, all you see is charred remains of structures. And it's not safe to actually go inside, but as part of the investigation, fire investigators will be able to identify whether there's furniture in there, those remnants that suggest that somebody lives in the house.
So right now it's unknown if any of them were occupied.
Do we know who called 911? Don't exactly know where the 911 calls came in, but I believe it was multiple calls.
Okay, so we don't know if anybody was living here. Nobody obviously inside was hurt, right?
No reports of any civilians suffering any injuries as a result of this fire here today.
How many firefighters do you have here?
Sure, we have roughly about 65 firefighters in addition to some administrative personnel.
Okay. Any difficulty fighting the fire? I know row homes are always an issue here in the city. We've had issues with vacant row homes in the past. Talk to us about that if you can.
Sure. In consideration of the intensity of this fire, being met with temperatures of nearly 1,000 degrees. Of course, firefighters are prepared for these types of elements, but the human element is there as well. So they have to use extensive precautions when battling these fires. As indicated, the fire grew in its intensity, so it was necessary to have additional manpower and resources.
The Baltimore City Fire Department right now after a fire in northwest Baltimore, where we've learned 3 firefighters have been injured and taken to the hospital. 4 row homes on fire, and they continue to fight that fire right now near Central Park Heights. The condition of those firefighters unknown. As soon as we have more information, we'll be sure to bring that to you.
That's new to me.
And now to continuing coverage on the war in Israel. We still don't know when Israel's ground invasion will start in Gaza, but Israeli airstrikes are pounding the Gaza Strip, including parts of the south where Israel told Palestinians to take refuge. This is video taken from the southern part of the territory moments after one of those airstrikes.
Meantime, the humanitarian crisis is growing worse by the minute. This is footage from inside a Gaza hospital. Families trying to find shelter, medical treatment, just basic necessities like food and water.
And with supplies running low, some help is on the way for the people of Gaza. At least 25 trucks carrying humanitarian aid for Palestinians are ready to cross the border. The United States, Egypt, and Israel agreed to open the border after President Biden's meeting with Israel's prime minister yesterday.
And all this comes as the Israeli Defense Force says it believes Hamas is holding more than 200 people hostage, including a handful of Americans. Israel says rescuing those hostages will be one of the top priorities in its ground assault on Gaza.
Tonight, President Joe Biden set to address the nation. He's expected to urge Congress to pass aid packages for Israel and Ukraine. We'll have full coverage on the speech and the latest developments in the war tonight at 10.
A live look at Capitol Hill right now, where there is still no Speaker of the House. After a closed-door meeting today, Jim Jordan says he will try to win the speakership for a 3rd time. This week, 2 votes to elect Jim Jordan as Speaker failed. There were reports this morning Republicans were going to delay a vote on a full-time Speaker in order to provide expanded powers to interim House Speaker Patrick McHenry.
And that could allow Congress to address pressing issues, including the budget, Israel, and Ukraine. But now, after a 3-hour GOP meeting, it seems like they have scrapped that plan. We'll continue to bring you the latest as we learn when that 3rd vote could be coming.
Here comes the next weather maker, kind of in 2 pieces. You see one that's south of Richmond and another one that's up around Columbus back to Chicago and Detroit. In between is where we are with some pretty nice weather, and that actually is going to stay with us through the rest of today. By tonight, clouds increase and these two systems kind of gel together. Most of the energy is actually, I think, going to end up off the coast probably and up toward New England and eventually away. But we will see a period of rain, I think, later tomorrow and tomorrow night. So that's something that we're tracking. Then cooler weather as we head into the weekend. So let's track that next weather maker. Again, there's that inland system giving rise to the coastal one here. And we're in between in this kind of strip of somewhat drier weather for Friday, although there could be a shower or a sprinkle. Better chance of rain Friday night, but it's kind of quick in, quick out. And then by Saturday, that coastal system really going, but that's going to be too far north and east for us to really expect a whole lot of impact. Although it will be breezy, it will be cooler, and there will be maybe a shower for Saturday, and then a blustery day for Sunday for the Ravens game. Mile 1 Tascam right now, 69, winds out of the southeast at 9 miles an hour. Pretty good look as we take a look there at the Beltway. Temperature near 70 here in Baltimore, 68 at Columbia. Actually had a high of, I believe, thus far 72 here in Baltimore. Chestertown at 68, 68 at Stevensville. Temperatures all running about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than they were 24 hours ago. Now you work your way west. The blue colors, that's the cooler weather, and that will be getting here behind any chance of rain as we go into the weekend. So out in the tropics, still a storm out here. It's been an active season, it kind of turns out. And you see Tropical Storm Tammy makes this recurve up towards potentially the Antilles over the next couple of days into the weekend, and then could actually be a hurricane as it does so, and then eventually moving way out into the open Atlantic. No impact on the United States. So your forecast for the remainder of today into tonight, some extra clouds. Temperatures not as cool, not into the 40s like we saw this morning. 50s by tomorrow morning. There's that stray sprinkle shot. Could see some pokes of sunshine tomorrow, and then a better chance of some rain arrives, I think, later on Friday. There you go. Friday about, say, 6, 7 o'clock. Skies begin to open up for some light to maybe moderate rain. That goes into your evening plans Friday, so that's going to be impactful. And then ending by the wee hours of Saturday morning, but there still could be a leftover shower on Saturday. Nothing that's going to cancel plans, I think, for the first half of the weekend. 55, mostly cloudy skies tonight. Could see a stray shower here or there late after midnight, mostly cloudy. Showers mainly late tomorrow into tomorrow night. Leftover shower on Saturday, cooler day 64, blustery cool Ravens game 61 Sunday, and then a warm up into the middle and end of next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, Fox 45 News is hearing from another parent who says his teenage son is out of control. The growing concerns over a lack of consequences for young criminals. She says a tree growing wild on a vacant lot is destroying her own property. The frustration from a Baltimore resident whose calls for help have gone unanswered.
The road through postseason baseball on Fox 45 is sponsored by Johns Hopkins Children's Center.
Four teams remain in the MLB postseason, and each day we're getting closer to crowning a World Series champion. You got the Phillies, Diamondbacks, Astros, and Rangers. They're all still alive, with each team chasing that coveted Commissioner's Trophy. Houston looking to become the first team since 2000 to go back-to-back. But last night they found themselves in an 0-2 hole, one they're trying to dig themselves out of. Top 7, Yordan Alvarez drives in 2 with an RBI single. Jeremy Pena would add another in the 8th as the Astros take Game 3, 8-5, the final score.
We were close to winning the first 2 games. You know, we were one hit away. You know, it might not have won, but we were one hit away from at least tying it up or going ahead. And, you know, I mean, this team doesn't quit. We know that the Rangers don't quit either. And, you know, it makes for a good series.
Well, it's game time in the desert between the Phillies and Diamondbacks. This one already underway. The Phils took the first 2 at Citizens Bank Park, one of the best home field advantages in all of baseball. Now they hit the road for Game 3. Ranger Suarez, he's got the ball against Brandon Pfaadt against the Diamondbacks. 2 great matchups on tap. First, you have Philly looking to take a 3-0 series lead over the D-backs. That one currently in progress. Then tonight at 8, it's the Rangers and Astros going head-to-head for Game 4. Maxine.
All right, Rocco, thank you. And we are your exclusive home for the 2023 World Series. The Fall Classic begins Friday, October 27th. You can catch all the action right here on Fox 45. A tree at a vacant lot is putting a Baltimore homeowner in an impossible situation. The latest calls for the city to do something to address abandoned buildings. A massive tree growing straight through a vacant property in North Baltimore is becoming more than just an eyesore. The people next door say it's invading roots and branches are becoming a serious hazard.
For years, they've been asking the city to cut it down. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us live now with their plight. Rebecca?
Well, guys, the sheer size of this tree should tell you that it didn't form overnight. Take a look. It has completely taken over this vacant, and its branches are starting to approach the home next door, the owners of which tell me the only thing bigger than the tree are the problems it's causing.
Good gracious.
This towering tree.
That thing has got to be at least 20 feet.
Tangled in a web of weedly vines and power lines. Grown so high it's hard to estimate an exact height.
I mean, that's about 30 from here to here. Maybe, I don't know.
Has sprouted into much more than just an eyesore for Tisha McCoy.
It's an extremely massive tree that's been growing since, I don't know, over 20 plus years.
That's around the time her boyfriend purchased the property behind her.
But I came in and said, no, this has got to stop.
Next door, the neglected tree growing through and over top one of the city's thousands of neglected homes, now causing damage above.
It's massive. It holds a lot of bugs. He's always having to rent machines to cut the limbs from lingering over.
And below ground.
The roots are starting to buckle up the concrete. I'm worried about the piping. We're starting to smell like this sewerage smell that's coming in through the house.
For more than a decade.
I would say probably upwards of 12, 13 years or more.
McCoy and her boyfriend placing countless 311 calls.
It's been daunting, really.
And sending messages straight to city officials.
I've written to the mayor.
But time and time again,
there's just been no resolve.
McCoy claims some city inspectors said they had trouble locating the tree.
Not humanly possible to miss this massive situation.
Others told her what grows on a privately owned vacant isn't the city's responsibility.
I've gotten so completely frustrated because it's honestly upsetting that you would turn a blind eye to what's obviously happening here.
According to city records, the lot listed as abandoned for the last 14 years. And at the age of 121, the owner likely deceased.
Getting the pricing for this over $6,000+ to try to get this tree chopped down. We need help.
After pressing for answers ourselves, the Department of Housing telling Fox 45 a special investigative unit will be looking into McCoy's complaints, sending a statement reading in part, quote, "In a situation like this where the owner or responsible party is not acting, we can inspect to see if the tree is presenting an imminent threat, and if so, we can have a contractor look at it to see if it can be safely removed." An olive branch McCoy has been waiting years for.
This is how I feel like the city of Baltimore is.
One she still wishes she could have reached on her own.
It makes me sad. You know, it makes me really sad. You know, they're supposed to be here to be a helpful hand. And, you know, with things like this, you would think that they would have a more immediate response. So it's kind of heartbreaking for me.
And this situation is also a part of a much bigger problem. Currently, there are 14,000 vacant homes in Baltimore City. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Well, a 38-year-old shot multiple times in northwest Baltimore last night. Police say they found the victim just after 10 along Park Heights Avenue. He was rushed to the hospital. It's not clear what his current condition is. Anybody with information on the shooting is asked to call Baltimore police.
According to Baltimore police, 222 people have been killed in the city this year. 524 have survived being shot. While those numbers are down from this time last year, the city has seen a sharp spike in juvenile crime. One Baltimore City father telling Fox 45 News he believes lawmakers aren't doing enough to hold juveniles accountable, including his own son.
I don't understand how they can sit back and see this stuff happening and not immediately want to make changes or something.
Well, this dad is joining the chorus of Baltimore parents demanding change in the city. Fox 45's Vincent Hill spoke with him about his concerns.
In the shadows of Baltimore City.
Stealing cars, robbing cars, breaking into houses.
A father coming forward about his 16-year-old son's criminal activity.
Drugs, guns, everything.
The father not wanting to show his face or identify his son by name, but says he's one of the juveniles in this surveillance video trying to steal a motorcycle.
And there's nothing being done.
Fox 45 first spoke with the father last year when he feared his son's crimes would get worse And that's exactly what happened.
The first time this happened, when I had to go pick him up, he stole change, a cigarette lighter, and a pack of cigarettes. The next time, he was flying down the highway going 110 miles an hour.
Running from police in a stolen car. His son put on probation and home monitoring.
He cut the GPS monitor off, now don't know how many times.
This father, now at his wit's end.
This day, I'm still fighting, trying to get him help. And everybody's like, oh, well, just deal with it. What, deal with his death?
And now with the message to lawmakers.
This juvenile reform incentive, these kids ain't learning no lessons. What are they thinking? Do they see what's going on? Don't talk. You need to do something now. It's an epidemic. These kids are out of control.
And a challenge from a father who says he's done all he can.
Take my son for a month. You deal with it. See what I'm going through.
Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Well, recently that father filed an emergency petition, but when his son went in for his mental health evaluation, he was told the son had no mental health issues. He was just committing crimes.
Well, Vincent mentioned the teen is under home monitoring from the Department of Juvenile Services. Mayor Brandon Scott has called that program a colossal failure, saying he wants a complete overhaul of the system.
We need a completely new system built from the ground up. The old system that we had didn't work. The systems that we have now clearly need work. Every single aspect of it from the top to the bottom must be looked at.
DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi agreed in part, saying his department does need to improve home monitoring along with improving conditions at its facilities.
Well, this week, Baltimore City Council passed a resolution to address juvenile crime, but a local government accountability group says that doesn't mean we'll see any real action on this issue. Patrice Sanders reports.
A resolution passed by the Baltimore City Council to address the city's juvenile crime crisis has some critics questioning if a resolution is enough. They want to see action now to turn things around. Spokesperson for the community group Peace, Eurypsy Morgan, says there are things that could happen immediately. What could happen tomorrow that would change what people are seeing on the streets today?
I think one of the first things that we could do is repeal parts of the Juvenile Justice Reform Act that has caused so much trouble, including the things that the different state's attorneys have discussed from around the state. And we're talking about Democrat elected state's attorneys who have said this particular set of laws has made it so much harder to hold young people accountable, but also to make our streets safer and to put them on the right path.
Others say the resolution is a step in the right direction. It brings the people to the table who need to be involved in finding the solutions. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Well, if you want to contact your state lawmakers about public safety, House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. Their phone numbers and email addresses are on your screen. You can find out how to contact all of your elected leaders on foxbaltimore.com.
Montgomery County Police Sergeant Patrick Kipp is still fighting for his life after being hit by an accused drunk driver earlier this week. Investigators say a 19-year-old hit him at more than 100 miles an hour. Tonight, Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C., tracking the latest on the case as that suspect appears in court.
In the 45 minutes before Montgomery County Police Sergeant Patrick Kipp was struck by a speeding Dodge Challenger, Kipp and his fellow officers had been trying to stop the car without engaging in a pursuit. Radio calls, one after another, reporting the car's location and speed.
Alpha, about 110. We're not going after him at this moment.
And that's what they tried to do. Sergeant Kipp setting up a device to flatten the car's tires, and then the horrible call from Sergeant Kipp himself, calling for help.
Whiskey 10, I got hit. I need fire rescue. I'm at Watkins Mill. Please send ASAP.
Today, 19-year-old Rafael Mayorga, the man charged with attempted murder for hitting Kipp, in court for a bond review, ordered held without bond.
The bottom line is he's not on the street. He's being appropriately held. As Judge Williams found, he is a public threat. He's a threat to flight.
And more details emerging about Mayorga's long record, page after page of charges this year for traffic offenses in high-performance cars. State's Attorney John McCarthy revealing that in some of those cases, frustrated police tried something other than a pursuit.
During some of the previous chases, they would actually make phone calls to him. They knew who he was, he knew who they were, and he dared them to try to catch him.
Finally, Sergeant Kep himself getting a warrant for Mayorga's arrest, citing his, quote, disregard for public safety. But it's now alleged even that didn't keep him off the streets.
We knew who he was. An arrest warrant was issued for him. It took a certain number of days before that arrest warrant could be served. He was, by the way, once he was arrested, he was allowed to remain free on bond.
Now, we've been going through court documents and we've learned a good deal more about Mayorga's history. It is alleged that he owned several high-performance vehicles and that recently he had tried to sell this lime green Dodge Challenger because it had become too well known to police. Now, we asked, why didn't he lose his license with all of these priors? We're told he never had a license, just a learner's permit. In Rockville, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Preventing the cycle of domestic violence. I'm Liz Bonus. It is remarkable what people are doing to try and get to teenagers who need help. It is just ahead.
And as we head into the overnight hours tonight, clouds increasing and our nice weather pattern gradually coming to an end. We could see a few showers that work in overnight into early tomorrow morning, but not as cool as we head towards the pre-dawn and dawn hours. Temperatures rising back into the 60s to near 70 tomorrow, but could be wet. I'll let you know how wet it's going to get and when it's going to be wettest in my Weather Authority forecast.